Welcome to the Even Better podcast, where your host, Sinikka Waugh of Your Clear Next Step, brings you exciting content about making communities better by helping people get even better at work.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Even Better podcast. This is Sinikka Waugh, and this podcast is part of our ongoing mission to help us all have better work days so that together we can co-create better communities. Today, I am just ecstatic to have my dear friend, Missy Paxson, with us. Missy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
This is a joy. It is a privilege to get to hang out with you. It is always a joy to hang out with you and then to have you share some of your tips and your insights with our listeners today. This is an absolute treat. So for those of you who don't know Missy Paxson, it is time to know Missy Paxson. I have had the joy of knowing Missy for many years and in many different roles. We've worked together as colleagues. We've worked together in supporting customers. We've worked together in corporate spaces and in startups and small businesses and in volunteer efforts and in the church. I've seen Missy as a business analyst. I've seen her as a thought leader. I've seen her as a coach, coaching agile teams to really focus on the customer and on delivering value to the customer instead of just processing widgets and things in the workplace. I've watched her in so many ways. And part of the delight that I have right now is introducing Missy as a life coach, this next piece of Missy's journey as a life coach who believes her spiritual calling is to help people live their best life. And I've watched her do this in every career that I've seen her in for many, many years. She is no stranger to difficult times, and she's learned how to transform those experiences as positive learnings within her own life story. Missy is the founder and owner of Greater Within. Greater Within is Missy's coaching company, and she believes that what we have inside us is greater than our fears. Through her experiences and certifications as a master life and master mindset coach, she has the tools to help inspire and motivate others to turn negativity into positive energy. Missy, I am so glad to have you with us. Thank you so much for being willing to share these 5 tips with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you are sharing 5 ways to be your best self at work and at home. Tell us before we get started in that, why would that be something that you would want to talk about? What's your story that says ways to be your best self at work and at home matters to you?
Yeah, I think it's always really important to figure out who you are as a person, right? And so in order to do that, you have to look within. And I think by doing that, it sets you up for success with not only your home life, but your work life too, because then you can relate to how do you relate to people? How do you react to things? So I think it's always important to kind of just step back and say, hey, what are some things I can do or explore even, or even challenge myself to think about how can I be better at what I'm doing today? And I think it just makes you grow as a person overall.
Absolutely. So as I think about our journey together, Missy, one of the things that I've noticed about you over the years is that work-life balance for you has never been a noun. It has always been a verb. You are actively balancing. You are engaged in the work-life balance, like balance the work, balance the life. And you are aware that there are busy seasons when sometimes we have to work a little bit more and we make those choices in those seasons. And yet you have always been so intentional about making sure that your life, your family, your interests, your hobbies don't get sacrificed for work. And I think that makes you a better worker. I think that makes you a better employee, a better coach, better at work because you don't let life get snuffed out by the work. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think it's very fair to say. I've always been a believer of faith, family, career, and always kept my focus on that in life. So, and it's been hard. It's been hard to do because there's a lot of times, especially with career, that you can get wrapped up in the moment and think I have to do everything all the time for everybody and I have to always be there. And that's not true. You can provide your best self by focusing, keeping yourself focused. So keeping that faith, family, career in line also keeps you focused on when things do matter. So when your career, you're in that moment, you're focused in that moment. And so it's not that you have to work 50, 60 hours. Sometimes you might, but then you balance it. Okay, then times I'm not going to and spend that time with my family because it's really about focusing on what matters and doing the job at hand and keeping that. So I'll never replace that faith, family, career line. It always stacks that way. My family comes first. That doesn't mean I don't care about my career. That doesn't mean that, oh, my family's over my career. It doesn't mean I don't care about it. It doesn't mean I don't care about what I do. I put my passion in everything I do, but I also remember my family's always there because at the end of the day, if I lose my job, I still have my family, right? And if I lost my family, that would be catastrophic. And then my faith is right there because that carries me through everything. And so I have to have all those in line and then check. And it's been a balance over the years to kind of make sure it stays in check, but it's kept me honest to who I am.
And I love that it's kept you honest. I've watched you say out loud that this is your prioritization and defend that. And you've done it courageously and always with good outcome. People respect you for that balance. People admire you for those balance. And the ones that don't get it, we don't need them anymore. Right? If they don't get it, we don't need them to judge us in our lives. And I've just really watched you thrive in that. So thanks for setting such a great example.
Thank you.
So let's get into the 5 ways to be your best self at work and home. So the first one you describe is to know your journey. Now that sounds mysterious. What do you mean, know your journey? How do we do that? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand where you've been in life. Look back at your past and understand where you've been. And so there is concepts of personal journey lines, personal journey mapping. There are tools that you can use to do that. And I know it sounds crazy to sit down and actually draw out kind of where you've been in your life and making sure that you're capturing those ebbs and flows, right? So where are the highlights in your life? Where are things really low? And really be honest with yourself. So you can really look at that picture and stand back and go, wow, I've accomplished a lot, but boy, I've been through a lot. And it's important to do that because when you draw that out, you really start to look at, what have I learned along the way, right? So if I'm going to be really honest with myself, because too many times we are good about saying our lows, we're going to hide. Like, don't talk about those. Like, put those under the rug. In fact, at one point in my life, I got some very poor advice of don't ever talk about your past experiences that are negative, because it's going to make people feel, too much sympathy for you or feel bad for you. And I started to do that. And I thought, why am I doing this? Right? Because those experiences have made me who I am today. And I need to be proud of that. Not always proud of the moments, right? But proud that I have come from where I've come or been through whatever I've been through, whatever it may be. So I highly encourage anybody out there to sit down and draw lines and everything of like a roller coaster, right? Of, hey, here's what really good things are happening in my life. And bam, I lost my job and something happened, right? And you went really low and you went back up again, because it really gives you time to learn from it. Like, how did that make you feel? When you went down there, how did you feel? What were some of the reactions? As you start to go back up and things are starting to go good in your life, how did it change you? What are some things that have happened along the way that you learned? How did things change along the way, as in terms of, I felt this way, and because of that, maybe I have a fear that it's hidden. Like, I have this hidden bias now, this little fear that I have that's created because I've been through this and I had this experience happen to me, that now I'm going to be fearful and don't even know it. And so start to look back at your journey and say, wow, that's why I feel like that when that happens, because in my journey, this is what happened, something happened to me and here's how I felt about it. And I didn't deal with it at the time. I kind of just, okay, I'll get through it, but it's impacting my stuff in the future. And so it's a really powerful tool to kind of sit down and go through there and say, hey, what is really going on? How do I get this? What are my triggers now? It's very possible that you should go through your journeys in life as you have those ebbs and flows, especially the ones that go down in the not so happy place that made you feel really, maybe even depressed, right? Sad, maybe losing a loved one, whatever it may be. There's a trigger associated with that. And that's where that whole emotional intelligence comes into play, to try to understand what your triggers are. And you'll be surprised when you start to really look back and say, it could be something simple as a song. Really, it could be a song. You lost a loved one and they played a song, and that song comes on and you immediately feel sad. That will help you learn how to engage differently with that song, pull out some of the positive things from it, everything in life. So I think it's really important just to honor who you are and where you've been through your past. All the way, you can start from birth if you want, all the way up. You can start just out of high school, out of college, wherever you want to start. But it's really important to know, what have you learned? And look at all the challenges you've been through. You'll be surprised, because everybody has challenges. There's nobody that's going to have a flat line journey map, right? You're going to have ups and downs. Everybody has them. So what really did you learn from that? And then really focus on, how can I pull some of that stuff out that's positive?
Yeah. So two things strike me about that. One of them, your point just now about the things that are positive and the triggers. I saw a post not long ago about being aware of your positive triggers is just as valuable and just as critical. Your happiness triggers is just as critical as your sadness triggers, right? Or your stress triggers. And so the up and down, if we're mapping out our journey and we're looking at those highs, what was going on around us? What were we feeling? What were we thinking? What were those triggers? So we can capitalize on that and recapture those happiness moments when we need that shot in the arm, or when we start to recognize another one is on its way. So I don't know, did you see that post as well when it came through?
I did. And it's very true, because a lot of times people only think about their positive triggers, and there are lots of negative triggers that you have. There's responses that you have to things that you don't even know that you're doing them. And if you start to look back and say, why am I doing that? If you catch it, and you can feel it sometimes on the inside, but you don't, so many people don't pay attention to their own feelings.
Right.
And I love feelings. So sometimes I'll feel something, I'm like, why am I feeling that way? Right? And so I have to sit back and look, and sometimes I'll pull out my journey map. I keep it up to date. I have one, it's crazy. And I look at it and go, oh, that's why I feel that way. Because in this instance, and this was a down moment for me, this was a negative feeling I was having, and I didn't really deal with that or really look into that. And so maybe that's something I need to explore so I can get past that negative trigger.
Yep. You bet. Well, and the other thing about the journey mapping is I think there are people in our lives when we're younger who try and teach us this skill. I know both my kids, it was either a freshman in high school writing assignment or an 8th grade writing assignment that was, tell me the 5 things or the 7 things that have really impacted you in your life so far, good or bad. What were those big impacts? And in confirmation class, right, I know at our church, for years, the confirmation class has included the footsteps. What were the steps on your path that helped shape you into the person that you are? And so as kids, perhaps we learn this, or we get exposed to this if we've got a teacher who believes in it, or a faith leader who helps us shape that. But when we get into adulthood, I'm not sure we spend as much time looking at our journeys as perhaps we should. So I appreciate that reminder, that know your journey, write it down, see it, take a look at it, and study it. Keep it up to date. I love that you said that. Keep it up to date too.
Yeah, it's constant. As long as you're alive, you have a journey, right?
Yep. And if I were to keep mine up to date, with a kid graduating high school here in a minute, there's all kinds of things that are going on there that we can wrestle with.
Absolutely.
All right. So we'll keep going. So 5 ways to be your best self at work and at home. The first one we talked about was know your journey. Your second one, which I know is so foundational to you, is about discovering your purpose. Say more about that, Missy.
Yeah. So really it's about discovering what you're passionate about and doing that in what you do in a day job, what you do in your family, do it as a hobby, whatever it may be, but discover what really makes you happy. What puts you in that, if you've heard of the state of flow. So what puts you in that state of flow where you're working on something and you totally lose track of reality and time and everything, right? You're just so involved and so engrossed in something that is tied to where your purpose is somewhere, where your passion is somewhere, because we're all created differently, and we all have different unique passions, and we need to discover what those are and not ignore those. And so not everybody gets the privilege to do their passion and their purpose through their careers, let's say, but that doesn't mean you still can't dabble in it, right? So make sure you're doing things that you are truly passionate about. And if it's about helping other people, absolutely go volunteer there. There's so many communities and churches and areas that need help, that you can help people, even just down to helping your children. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can help with. Just really find out what makes you you and what makes you thrive and make you happy, because there's nothing greater in life to feel that, because you're constantly going to be happy. You're also going to have a lot of gratitude. So you're going to be tied to it, because you're going to be so thankful for what you do have, and you're truly living out what you're meant to be. And you're going to be so grateful for that on the flip side. So I think it's a huge thing to really just discover who you are, what your purpose is, what your passion is, what really makes you you.
Yeah. You and one of our colleagues, Barb Rank, have a similar perspective on this. And Barb actually offers a program through us called Life on Purpose that really helps you get to that. And I've heard her speak so many times and engaged in conversations with her, not even as a coach, but as a friend, where she's talking about, in the same way that you do, about making sure that you're living intentionally. You've found your purpose, and we were each designed and created to like certain things and to be driven by certain activities and to serve in certain ways and to participate and contribute in certain ways. And when you can find that, whether it's how you earn your paycheck or whether it's how you spend your discretionary time, if you can find that purpose, you're right, it brings you so much joy and so much gratitude that then you can't help but be fun to be around, right? You can't help but find that work-life balance, because people will give you the work that you love, and it balances out, and you're also living the life that you love.
Yeah, absolutely. Life is definitely too short not to do that. And I know a lot of people have the misconception that I have to do that in my career, which ideally is the perfect world, right? That is exactly what you want to do, is have a career that you're passionate about and that ties to your purpose. But if you don't have that opportunity, that doesn't mean you still can't do things that pull out your passion and your purpose. So always remember that life's too short to say one day. Don't wait one day. Have that happiness now. Have that fulfillment now.
Absolutely. I was thinking about the differences that we have. And years ago, we had a coach that worked with us named Sherry, and Sherry would absolutely light up whenever it was time to talk about data. And you know me, I like to talk about people. I like to connect with humans. I even like process, but man, you start talking data and my eyes glaze over and my brain starts to check out. And I remember having these conversations where we'd go in front of a client and the two of us would be pitching an idea or a solution to that client. And I'd start talking about how we're going to get involved with the people and how we're going to fix the process and how at the end it's going to look great. And then Sherry would chime in with, oh, and we get to do this with the data. And the clients would notice that she was absolutely lit up and I was absolutely lit up, and we were lit up about two different things. But they knew that they were going to get a rock solid answer because we were passionate about what we were talking about. What fun.
Absolutely. It's an energy that just comes off of you when you find that.
Yep, for sure. Okay, so 5 ways to be your best self at work and at home. Know your journey, discover your purpose. And the third one that you offer is challenge yourself. Now, this is something that I'm going to talk about Missy outside of school here. And I'm going to say that I can't think of a time that I've known Missy Paxson that she wasn't actively working on something, actively getting better at some skill, actively growing something. So I assume that's where you're talking about with challenge yourself, but say more. What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Challenge yourself, especially to do those things outside your comfort zone, and especially those things that align with your purpose. Because if you can do those two, you're going to move mountains. But the reason I say outside your comfort zone is, and it's hard, it's scary. Believe me, I know it's scary. But I always find if I'm comfortable, something's not right. Like I'm not challenging myself enough. I'm missing an opportunity somewhere. If I'm getting comfortable, I'm missing something that's out there within my reach that I was destined to do that I haven't got the courage to do yet. And I truly believe that, the energy and the spirit that lives within us is far greater than any fear that we have. And believe me, I always have to remind myself of that because I'm very much human and get very fearful of trying new things. And, comfort zone's nice, but it's not where you're going to grow. You've got to keep growing and keep pushing yourself because you are made and created for something far more than what you're doing. And how do you push yourself and apply your skills and venture out there to help others and to reach a whole different level of people? And to do that, you have to really challenge yourself. You have to constantly be pushing yourself, constantly learning. I love to learn. I'm always reading things and researching things. And my husband's always laughing. Great, another book she has brought home. What is she going to teach me now? Because I'm always trying to learn things. Because I think I hunger for that. I want to know more things all the time, and I want to continue to grow who I am. And through that, though, you meet some fabulous people. And so I just really encourage everybody to challenge yourself. If you feel comfortable, if you feel like things are routine and you're kind of feeling down and bummed about it a little bit, shake it up. Challenge yourself to do things. And even though 2020 was a very interesting year for everybody, you definitely can change how you do things. So just because you can't go out to a conference, maybe a live conference and go see all these people, you can still learn all kinds of stuff. I'm a completely introverted person. I'm not one that's real good at socializing. So 2020 really helped me okay, get out there and start pushing through and trying to find all those things that you can do. Take classes. I took a ton of classes and became a certified coach in a lot of different areas because I was hungry to learn something new and I had the opportunity to do it. So I took the challenge to go do it. So just challenge yourself and push yourself and really focus in on your purpose, because if you do that, if you find your purpose and then you challenge yourself to go after it, you'll be in that state of flow. You'll get going on things and you won't realize that I've just read 3 books, or I've just listened to 3 books, whatever your preference is, right? Or I've just attended 6 or 7 classes online that I never even dreamed I would have done in a million years, because you're in your state of flow. You're doing what you care about, what you're passionate about, what you were created for.
You bet. Well, and your ability to stretch and to challenge yourself. I go back years ago in our recollection, and it was one of the first times that on behalf of your Clear Next Step, I had asked you, hey, are you interested in presenting at a conference? And I remember your first facial expression was, that's not the kind of thing that I do, Sinikka. I'm not really a stand up in front of people and present. I'm kind of a keep to myself and maybe talk one-on-one kind of person. And I remember you're thinking that doesn't sound comfortable. And I remember the conversation, who knows what the words were, but the conversation that we had, your message was, that sounds like a challenge. I'm up for it. You know, your instinct, your first response was, that sounds scary. And then you're like, but it sounds like a challenge. So let's do it. And you knocked it out of the park. You presented for us at a IIBA conference, at an annual conference, and then continued to present in various formats. And that public speaking is no stranger to you anymore at all.
Yeah, and I would be fooling myself if I said I wasn't terrified still, because it's still just not natural for me. But again, it's a challenge. And so I remember that presentation as clear as day, because I remember they were bringing extra chairs because the room was overfilled, and it just added to more of my terror. But I think it was a great challenge. And of course, you know, everybody's human. You got to remember that. So I'm all big about give grace. So when you're challenging yourself and you're pushing yourself, you're not going to be perfect at what you do. And it took me years to figure that out, because I'm a reclaimed perfectionist. So it's hard for me not to get something and nail it out of the gate. And I've had to learn over the years, that's not my purpose. That's not why I'm here. I was not created to be perfect. Boy, was that a stress relief off of me, right? You don't have to be perfect. So go out there and do what you do and challenge yourself, and know that you're going to flub and you're going to make mistakes. And it's okay, because guess what? You're going to learn from them, and you're going to put that on your journey and write down what you learned from it, how you felt about it, and continue to grow from it. So don't always be afraid of those challenges. And if you are afraid, don't keep that fear from letting you do it. Because I can tell you, I get terrified. I don't like to speak in public. I get very nervous about doing that. I'm much better one-on-one. But I think if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have learned what I've learned. I wouldn't have grown. I wouldn't have had that memory either. And I think that's helped me become more of who I am today. So challenge yourself, but know you're going to be terrified and scared, and that's okay. Don't let that stop you.
Yep. I love it. Love it. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we're here with Missy Paxson, and we're talking about 5 ways to be your best self at work and at home. The first tip that Missy shared was to know your journey and keep track of that, and keep that fresh, and keep that current, and keep reflecting over it. The second one was discovering your purpose, making sure you understand what you're passionate about, and spend your time really pursuing that passion, whether as a career or as a hobby, finding what you're passionate about and doing that. And the third one that we just wrapped up was challenging yourself. So not being afraid, or not letting the fear stop you, I guess, challenging yourself to grow, constantly pushing yourself, driving yourself forward, and then giving yourself a little bit of grace when you know that you're outside of your comfort zone, that it may not be perfect. So I had to catch that with may not. I'm still a recovering perfectionist. So, it may not be perfect. For those of you who believe you can still be perfect, just know it may not be. All right. So we're on to number 4. Don't let anyone change you. Oh, Missy. So powerful. Tell us more.
This is a big one. This is a one that I have really, been challenged against many, many, many times in my career. And all I can say is be proud of who you are. You are uniquely created. We all are, right? We're all uniquely created for a reason. Remember that. So be proud of who you are. Stand your ground. My big thing, we talked about family, faith, and career earlier. I know earlier in my career, I was told once that I will never get anywhere in life, in my career. I will never go outside of what I was doing. I will never explore different options if I don't give up my family activities to work 60, 70 hours a week. And I will never forget that, because it was that moment when I went, well, then I don't need to be at the place I'm at, for one. Right. That's not the place for me. And for 2, I stand firm in what I believe in, and I'm not going to change that. I am who I am. Don't try to change me. And I know as women, sometimes we find that especially in career life, you'll find that sometimes people will tell you you're too sensitive or you care too much. I don't think there's such a thing. You can't care too much, right? I care about people. You absolutely right. I care about people. I think you can be overly sensitive if you're crying at every meeting and can't function. That could probably be an issue. But I think, to me, oversensitive means I'm in tune with my feelings, and I'm in tune with other people's feelings. I'm really big on empathy and really paying attention. When I'm in a room, very seldom am I paying attention to me. I'm paying attention to how everybody else is reacting. I'm the one that will ask a question that people will look at me and go like, you know the answer. Why did you ask that? Well, because I could tell that there were 5 or 6 other people in the room that didn't know, and they had that question. They were lost in the conversation, but too afraid to say anything with the large room that we were in. So I was willing to step up and say something. So don't ever change who you are. You'll be challenged in your life. People will challenge that. And I just say, be true to who you are, stay grounded, and just be proud of it. Be proud that that's who you are. So you're a little different. You're a little quirky, whatever it may be, right? Embrace it. If your creativity side is there, use it. I mean, I love that. I love that people get to shine their light and be who they are. So.
Awesome. So I have another recollection, another Missy story of you being who you were and not afraid of that. And it was one of those moments that you and I had been working together for a little bit, not a ton of time, but we were back in a new employer, our second employer, working together. And we had done some coaching and doing some things to kind of transition. I don't know if I was your buddy or whatever it was, helping you into this new organization. But as long as I live, I will never forget this meeting. We're in a meeting and I'm the project manager at the meeting and you're the BA and you've just joined the team. And so you're a little bit new to the BA role and you're getting your feet under you. And I am like a chronic stage hog. I know that's what I do. I hog the spotlight in some cases. And it was nobody's holding the marker. I'm going to grab the marker because I want to make sure that it's in control and that we're doing things and moving forward. So in that particular meeting, I went to the front of the room and I grabbed the marker and I said, okay, so I think these are the things that we're talking about. And I crossed the line from from project manager, which was my role on that project, into doing the stuff that you were there to do as business analyst. And Missy, there's another case where I don't remember your exact words because your words were kind and they were compassionate and they were uplifting. It was something like, I got this, Sinikka. And your message to me was so abundantly clear. Sinikka, I love you. Shush, sit down. I got this. And you stood your ground even in this moment where, I mean, and we're friends and we've been friends forever, but that was a scary situation. That was your first time sort of presenting to that group and facilitating that group. And you're like, here, let me have that marker and I will take it from here, sweetie. And you stood your ground. And I've always admired you for that. And you handled me with such grace and the moment with such grace. And you shown that you did what you were supposed to do. And you didn't let the circumstance or the pressure of the moment change what you knew to be true about you.
Yeah, I'm a true believer that people always assume grace, right? So people assume the best intentions. They're not doing things out of ill will most of the time. And so assume that. Don't assume that, in that situation, I could have totally been like, why is she taking my job from me? And da 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 da. And that is not, first of all, that's not who I am because I always want to assume the best about something, right? But at the same time, so I think always first approach things from assuming the best about the person and giving them grace in the situation. So that will help your words form and keep you kind and compassionate. At the same time, stick your ground. Like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm here for. Let me do this for you. Let me help you through this. This is where my skill set is. Let me take this on and let me do that. So I think if you remember those things of who you are, what you do, and at the same time, assume the best out of people and always give grace, I think it's always going to be a good situation because you're always going to go with a positive attitude and try to help people through things. And when I say stand your ground, it isn't coming across rude. It's not, this is who I am, where I am. It's just not losing faith of who you are, and don't lose sight of that. Be proud of that. And again, as women, we run into that sometimes, where we have to sometimes feel like we have to step up and over or do things that we are like, I don't know, that's not something in my job to do. I need to do that. Or is it comfortable? Or it's not me. Or somebody will say, hey, here's how we need to do something black and white. Go do this. And I'll be, okay, great. But I'm going to put my spin on it, right? So I'm going to teach the same content, let's say, but I'm going to be who I am and how I do it and do it from my approach. And that's okay. I can do that. So I think it just takes us sometimes to not be apologetic. I know a lot of women, I'm accused of it myself, will always be sorry. Like, sorry, I had too much fun in that meeting, or sorry, I laughed, or sorry, I don't know why we do that, but we're always sorry for stuff. Stop being sorry and just say that's who I am and have fun with it.
You bet. When you said something that reminded me in that moment, I don't remember your words, but I know your message included. And Sinikka, I love you. Now sit down, right? There was no doubt in my mind that it was coming from a place of grace and confidence in who you were, but also affection and care. So,
yeah.
Okay, so we're on to the fifth one. Know your journey, discover your purpose, challenge yourself. Don't let anyone change you. And the fifth way to be your best self at work and at home is to let your light shine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I put a question on here. It said, you're different than those you work with. Great. Celebrate that, right? Diversity is huge. How boring would this world be if, especially if I was in a room with everybody like me? That would be boring to me because I'm not going to learn, and I love to learn. So I'm not going to learn from that. But two, how are you going to let your light shine when you're not sticking out as being unique? So we were all, again, created very uniquely for a reason. Let that light shine. So don't shy away from it. Don't let anybody change you from it. And let your light shine. Go out there and show people who you are and what you can do. And not just in your career, but in your community, in your families, and everything you do. I really a firm believer of just because you were raised a certain way doesn't mean you have to raise your kids that way, right? It's okay to change things and that you are different again. And you have to pair with your partner when you're raising your children because they're unique in their own situation too. So how do you come together and let your light shine and be as bright as possible? And how do you just constantly keep doing what you want to do and have fun with it? So for me, I always love to have fun. I love to have fun. I'm a feelings type of person. I could talk about feelings all day long, which I know would drive some people crazy because they're not a feelings person, which is great. That's who they are. And I think it's important that I do that and let my light shine and go out there and teach people and, teach at Sunday schools and work with children and my own children and my grandchildren, teaching them about things. And I think it's just important to say, hey, I was created for a reason and I'm going to celebrate that. And I'm not going to be ashamed of that. And I'm going to use that as a light for others as well, especially in the darkness. 2020 was given a huge test to a lot of us, right? And I know I found a lot of friends that were reaching out. Are you still smiling? You always smile. Are you still smiling in 2020? Believe me, I had my moments as well as everybody else, but constantly saying, how do I let my light shine in the darkness? And how I'm created so uniquely. What do I need to do? Where are my skill sets at that I can help shine light for others when maybe their light's a little dimmer right now and they need a lift?
For sure. As you talked about the family just a little bit, I want to go back to that and especially to women. For many years, we watched Facebook and then Pinterest and then whatever it is that we're supposed to be watching now that I'm not current with. But we see these examples of other women, right? They do it all. They have the perfect house and their kids are all dressed perfectly and they make the Halloween costumes and they bake all the goodies and they show up here and they show up there. And I think we put this crazy pressure on ourselves sometimes as women to do everything. And then when we wind up doing everything, we don't do anything particularly well. Whereas if you're known as like, this is my specialty, man, this is not me. I bake pies. So if there's someone whose specialty is to bake pies and they bake the best pies, then shine that light, bake those pies and use them as gifts. If your specialty is helping kids with Halloween costumes, if your specialty is leading children's music at your church, if your specialty is standing in front of the microphone and leading worship on Sundays with the whole congregation, if your specialty is taking notes at the meetings so that everybody remembers what happened and sending those back out, whatever it happens to be, you let your own unique light shine, which I think is what you're getting at there. You don't have to do all the things for all the people. There are other people. I'll tell you, I am not a gift wrapper. There are people I can fold the paper. You give me the paper, I can fold the paper. I can make the lines crease. I can line everything up perfectly at the end. You give me a gift bag and tissue paper and it will look like a dog attacked it before I gave it to you. I don't have those skills. I can't make pretty. And so I don't have to, right? I put things in boxes so I can fold them and use the flat paper kind. Or I hand them off to a friend who is like, when we're giving gifts as an organization, somebody else is good at that. I'm not good at that. And you don't have to be good at all this stuff. Be good at what you're good at, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Be good at what you're good at and let other people know what that is. So sometimes we're like, oh, I know I'm good at this, I'm good at that, but I'm timid maybe, or maybe I just don't want to stand out in a group. And so I don't want to volunteer to help do that. So if you're struggling with rapping, right? And if I was one that would love to rap, I'd be, hey, I could do that for you. That would be cool. But maybe I'm timid and thinking that's not the proper thing to do. And that's what I'm here to say is let that light shine, because you're going to help somebody else with that light. You're going to move somebody else with that light, whatever it may be, to wrapping paper, to worshiping in church, to whatever it may be, taking notes in a meeting. Those are all good examples. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm good at that. And it's okay. So it may be different. Maybe most people hate to take notes. I'm a note writer. I love paper and pen. I can't type as fast as I can write. So I'm one of those old school people. So I love to do that and write things down. It's okay. Be like, I'll be the one to take notes. And I guarantee you other people are going to be like, oh, thank you. I didn't want to do that. Thank you. So a lot of times we know who we are. We may establish that, but we're afraid to show it in other areas, or we show it at home, but we don't show it in our community, or we don't show it in our career. And we need to be who we are all the time. So let your light shine is all about be who you are and broadcast that wherever you are. You shouldn't be a different person at your job than you are at your church, than you are at your home. You should be that person all the time. And so let that light shine and so everybody can see it.
Oh, neat. Beautiful. So we have been talking with Missy Paxson about 5 ways to be your best self at work and at home. Know your journey, discover your purpose, challenge yourself, don't let anyone change you, and let your light shine everywhere and all the time. I think I'm just adding on. It's not just let your light shine everywhere and all the time, says Missy. So this is awesome. Thank you, Missy. That really insightful things that any one of us could pick up and listen, and it'll make our work days better. It'll make our home life better. It'll make interactions with others more natural and more fun, and just a brighter world. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor to be on.
You bet. So as we wrap up, the question that I always ask at the end of all of these podcasts is, Missy Paxson, what's making you even better these days?
Yeah, it's all about, for me, challenging myself, pushing myself beyond the fear of trying something new, the fear of that whole failure thing of having to be perfect. So it's a constant. What makes me better is constantly pushing myself to do those things that terrify me in a sense, because I know I'll grow from it. So keep learning, keep researching, keep challenging myself to try new things, and know that I'm going to fail along the way. Just know that. Just set that up front, that I can be even better if I just embrace the fact that I'm going to mess something up, because then it kind of takes that fear down a little bit, and it gives me a chance to push myself forward. So that's what I do. Challenge, challenge, challenge.
Love it. Love it. And those are great closing words right there. On behalf of all of us here at Your Clear Next Step, this is Sinikka Waugh, and we hope the rest of your day is even better. Thank you for joining us on the Even Better podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in today. The Even Better podcast will be back with more content soon. But in the meantime, subscribe to our podcast or check out our website at yourclearnextstep.com for more information. See you next episode.